When you learn more, you earn more. It is time for another episode of Ask Pat, where Downing-Frye Realty's Director of Corporate Training helps you become more productive, professional, and profitable in your real estate career. Please welcome Pat Pitocchi and Cindy Woolley.
And Destiny Olmstead.
Yay.
Hi, ladies. How are you? Happy Monday.
Right. Happy
Great.
Monday.
You know, I think Mondays are like this fantastic day to just like overload, get everything on the plate and just start checking it off the rest of the week. But and let me tell you, the last thing on the sexy meter is insurance, right? It's not,
Right.
not really on my radar, but I know it's super important, right? You know, and especially just understanding what happens and what covers you. So welcome today, Pat. I know you had a big plan on where to go, and I know there's some updates with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and so forth. You want to jump in?
Sure. Thanks, Cindy. And hello, everyone. We are really pleased today to have our expert, Destiny Olmstead, here to help us understand insurance. And I agree with Cindy. It's probably way low on the sexy list, Cindy. But you know what? Insurance is really one of those things that's not important until it is.
Yeah.
And boy, once it is important, oh wow, there's a lot of regret, I guess, at that point. I'm sure Destiny's heard it all, but I thought we would kind of open the floor to a few of the questions that we get, and maybe Destiny can help us with those because we rely on her expertise. First question is, with the new changes, particularly with condo financing,
Right.
and Freddie as the secondary mortgage providers, whatever they say kind of, has an effect on everyone else. And maybe you can speak a little bit about that and explain a little bit about that to all of us.
Sure. So after when they updated their condo guidelines for 2022, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And so, as you know, if you take out a mortgage with the lender, you're going to have the coverage in place. They're going to force you, when you take out a federally backed mortgage, to have the insurance coverage in place. But you're now going to have to follow, there's a lot of different guidelines due to what happened with the structural condition of the building that fell, and unfortunately was the tipping point for them to put these stricter regulations in place. You're going to find that if you are going to purchase a building and it's been inspected, or a condo that's been inspected and it needs any type of updates or has any type of restrictions, such as a regulatory authority has inspected it and stated work needs done, there's a lot more in place now with hoops you have to jump through, because if you're going to need to evacuate the premises for more than 7 days, they count that as a stipulation in the mortgage. They will not be able to provide you that loan if you're going to need to have renovations done that are going to require an individual to be out of the unit for more than 7 days. They find that unstructurally sound. Also, if the condo has deficiencies, defects, substantial damage, or deferred maintenance, so severe enough to affect the safety and soundness of the property, they will not extend the loan. So now it's going to be a little bit more of a process if you find a buyer who's looking to purchase a condo and they're using a federally backed mortgage to obtain insurance. It's going to be a little bit harder for us because, our our providers look at everything, and they don't want to insure something that might not be structurally sound or needs a lot of repairs. So it's kind of getting the process started early in regards to making sure that the property is free of these type of deficiencies and securing insurance. Because sometimes when we come in and we look at a property from an insurance standpoint, we may find things too that could become issues or bumps in the road with the property. So
yeah, I think everyone realizes the tragedy of the Miami building, and obviously people in their home, in their condos, when the building collapses, that's obviously a tragedy. But as you said, we really have to look long and hard at the entire process. And deferred maintenance is really a buzzkill. We have about in our company between 70 and 84% of our deals, and it sort of varies with this crazy market we're in, that are cash. But lots of times realtors are trying to present a financed offer, and or some of the cash offers, people wish to have financing after they close. So our contract advises folks, just again, you have to read it to be aware of that. But our contract does advise people before they make an offer on a property to sort of, get a quote, an estimate of some sort about the insurance issue. And I'm just wondering if you think that's a wise thing. We're supposed to do that, but I'm not sure that everyone truly does that.
I think that kind of goes into the next question you had posed is, right, do you, before an offer, do you try to obtain insurance? And insurance is such a crucial part. Again, cash buyers have the option to kind of choose, do they want to insure this property? But when you have anybody dealing with a mortgage, the lender's going to want to see insurance in place. And we like to say that rates are all kind of streamlined, and you might think for, houses in the same price range, they're going to kind of have a similar amount, but that is rarely true. It's property specific, it's risk specific, it's claim specific. That individual, you may not know, because it's not going to come up in a purchasing, discussion of looking for homes, that they might have had 3 or 4 claims prior already on prior homeowners policies, and those are going to affect their rate. So you really don't want to walk in to a deal where they've picked the property, they love it, you feel that this is going to close, and they require insurance since they're using a lender, and where you thought the insurance might have been $2,000 for a year, it's coming back with every carrier around 6 to 8 because they've had a lengthy claims history, they've had issues at other residences, or this specific residence could be a risk. So it's really trying, before you put an offer in, it doesn't hurt the individual in any way, shape, or form to begin the insurance buying process. And if we get them a quote on property A and they end up not purchasing property A, then we already have all their information for when you work with them to find a new property and secure the insurance on the one they're actually going to purchase. So it's really a simplistic process. It takes us just a day or two to get the quotes back. So everything kind of comes to you in a real quick, real time. And like I had said, it really can come into play when you're having individuals who are using financing, because again, they need it. They have to have it. And it can really blow up a deal, which I've seen happen with, realtor friends, even up north that I have, that will refer businesses to me where we're getting close. They picked out the property, they're getting close to close, and the insurance just isn't affordable. I mean, and then we have to either really be trying to find a Band-Aid to a problem for a quick fix, knowing we're going to have to go out again and try to find insurance by next year at renewal, or they're going to have to start thinking of alternate options.
Yeah, and I think it's, it's kind of like an umbrella. You need it once it starts raining. And I often ask people, even realtors, what's covered by their errors and omission insurance. They think everything is. And I think sometimes homeowners think the same thing. Oh, I'm getting insurance. That means I'm covered for everything. And I think sometimes it's part of the qualifying educational process for buyers to kind of have them understand, and they need to speak with somebody like you who can explain to them what is covered and what isn't, because they think everything's covered.
Well, and that's the thing too is, and they think insurance is very easy to get. It's insurance. Everybody has it. Everybody needs it. I'll be able to obtain a policy. And again, to some of those factors I've already talked about, claims history, risk at the address, the individual, the insurance score comes into play. So all of those things, are what make up that rate. And it's not streamlined, and it's not there's so many different analytical aspects that go into devising that rate. it's really a big factor, and it should be done early on. That way it's part of the process. It's part of, especially if there's a loan, that number is factored into their mortgage. So again, you're not finding it, the ninth hour that it's not going to work for you.
Great. In Florida. Oh, I'm sorry, Cindy.
Oh, no. So the thing that's occurring to me is as a small business owner is like this due diligence seems quite overwhelming, right? If we're going to make a purchase into a condominium building, how do you know who has inspected that building? How do you know where some of these landmines might be? Or is that something that you take on as the insurance agent to do some of the pro forma there?
Well, as the insurance agent, we can run reports and risk on the address. So especially if they're buying like a commercial type property, so they're buying something that has, multiple units, we can get a lot of information on the property. We still, their lender's still going to ask for different types of inspections that we would not be able to provide, but we can get a lot of information on claims, loss history, ratios. So we can kind of give the heads up that if we're running a risk address and we see that there's a high instance of claims, or there's been prior issues with the property, or it's coming up in a flood zone, or there's all different kinds of things. We have an inspector go out and the inspector says there's issues. Those can all be kind of red flags during the process. And if they're found early on, alleviate some of the headaches if, we end up again waiting to the very end to find these things out, or that the building is just going to be, extremely expensive to insure.
So part of the inspection that the county or city or whatever regulatory body does the inspections, those are all recorded. Are those public documents, Destiny, that we can, to reference Cindy's question, we could be reviewed by the insurance provider as well as the customer?
Yes, a lot of the things are available online. They're public record. The most recent inspection, or you could find everything in regards to that the city would have for tax purposes and that online. And sometimes, again, when we have an adjuster, or not an adjuster, but an inspector go out, they find out even more. So it's, especially in regards to commercial buildings or buying larger properties, we have the inspectors go out. They can get a lot more information than we typically would on like a personal single family home.
Yeah. Well, I hate to say this because Destiny will have to block her ears, but people get kind of overwhelmed with insurance, and so they kind of summarize it and say, "Oh, I'm insured for everything."
Yeah,
and they just don't really understand it. But especially in Southwest Florida, we have so many folks who come from other sections of the country, and we have a lot of water. So let's talk about water in Southwest Florida, because we sure do have a lot of water here, and people expect the same rules whence they came from the Midwest or Northeast or whatever are in effect here, and they really are quite different.
Right. So to speak to that, right up here, we have, a lot of homes have basements up here. So we have, exclusions. And again, the same kind of goes in regards to thinking insurance covers everything. People will call with a claim and it'll be for seeping groundwater. Seeping groundwater is not covered. Water sewer backup is an endorsement on a policy. You have to have water sewer backup if the drains back up into your basement for it to be covered. Because again, these are exclusions on policies, but they can be negated as an exclusion by having an endorsement saying this coverage is provided. You pay a little bit extra, but you have the endorsement for backup. You have an endorsement for mold or water damage over time. But when you think about like flood, like up here, up north, everyone will be like, well, water's covered. No, water sewer backup is, not flood. So especially down south where flooding is very common, you have some of those zones like if they're labeled A or V, they have a 1% annual chance of flooding. I mean, that's high. It is a flood zone. So if you have a chance each year of possibly having your house flooded, you need to carry flood insurance, which if you have a federally backed mortgage or you're using pretty much any type of lender, they're going to require not only you to carry homeowners insurance, but to carry a flood policy in addition to that. We write flood through various carriers in Florida. I can think of probably 8 to 10 of them right off the top of my head. Some of the most common are going to be like your Front Lines, United PNC, but we can find even Progressive writes flood in Florida. So we can get that squared away and situated. But again, that's an additional cost on top of your current homeowner's policy, especially if you're being required to carry it to have this mortgage. So again, early on and finding out during that process, are you, in one of these zones? Are you going to be required to carry that flood coverage? Because that's something separate that we have to square away to make sure that your lender has everything for close.
Yeah, I think as far as realtors are concerned, we encourage them to learn as much as possible, ask as many questions as possible, and we are the source of the source. While we would not have the ultimate answer, we should be able to know and respect and recognize the fact that we have water issues here, and perhaps these buyers aren't used to that. Maybe we better get them to someone who can really speak to what this means for this particular property. But I think that's one of the really common questions. I know when I moved here, it was the same sort of thing. I mean, everybody thinks, oh, I'm insured. I'm insured for water. There's water everywhere. That does not mean, that does not mean you're being insured for that element, unless, as you say, you take and you really look into that. I think that's really important here, especially with weather changes.
And people believe though that, like FEMA has a natural disaster program. Well, it's going to pay you out $5,000, or you're going to have to take out a loan that's going to be payable back. And, when you think of $5,000, just 2 years ago, the average flood claim was about $40,000 for Southwest Florida. So, I mean, that's a big deficit especially if you have a mortgage and, you budget and you have a monthly payment for your home and children and everything else. And then all of a sudden your house floods and, you're going to get a government, grant for $5,000, but you still have a deficit of $35,000 or greater. So, those flood policies are something that even if it's not required necessarily, if you live in an area that could flood or, if it's cost effective to still carry it, we suggest that you do.
And we on our local MLS anyway, we have access to the current flood maps, which do change annually. They do look at those. But I still encourage realtors, even though you can go and look at that, I still feel it's much more appropriate to have an insurance professional say, this is the case, and give them the address, etc., because you just don't want to take a chance. From a realtor's perspective, we'd rather have the liability on your shoulders.
Thanks. Yeah. Yay. Yeah. No. I mean, it's something that, again, if they're taking out a loan and they live in a flood zone, it's going to be required. And you don't want to think, okay, well, I'm going to guess the insurance and the flood policy will be, X amount, and it ends up being triple X amount. And that then causes the buyer to have to rethink the scenario of purchasing the home because the mortgage and other costs will be too expensive. So again, it's one of those things, think about it early and often.
And we, I always, I encourage when we train our folks, we do train them to in fact, receive a quote. I will give you just one example of a modest home, not a huge structure, on the water in Southwest Florida. And between the property and flood insurance, it was $11,000 per year, which for some is nothing. For others is enough to disqualify them from, being able to have a lender take a chance on them. And you know what I say to realtors, if the price quote is okay with the buyer, fine. But if it's not, we may as well know now rather than, beforehand.
Right. And having the time to shop, we have the accessibility to so many different carriers within Assured Partners that, if we have to look to an ENS, if we have to look to another market or something we can still source, that just sometimes requires some additional time. It might require a few additional days, to get out to those lenders and get the quotes back from the underwriters. So we always have a market. It's very, very rare that we have to turn a client down because we just cannot source them. If we can't, we can place them somewhere. We have other offices we work with. I have homes insured all over the country. So we just need that time. And again, that's why it pays to do it early and often, because the more time that we have, if there's going to be an issue, the better off we are to assure that we're going to be able to put something in force before close.
So the last question we have is accessibility, and how can we talked about when the realtor should sort of encourage getting to you as a support person who has specified and specific information. But what about accessibility? How do they access your expertise?
The easiest way is typically if they send me an email that they have a buyer, or a property, and we're going to want to look at the insurance. Email, even if it's 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I still will typically email someone back. So email is the easiest way because then we can communicate, realtor and myself, how do we want to approach the buyer? Would they like to collect the information? I can send the sheet over and they'll have the buyer fill it out and get it back to me. Would they like me to reach out to the buyer, which I'm always happy to do? And because either way, I would have to speak to them before insurance would be put in place if they decide to continue the process. So I can reach out to the buyer. Once we have the information we need, it usually takes 24 to 48 hours to get the quotes back. So they come back very quickly and we shop them through multiple markets. So it's not like they're waiting a day or two to get a quote back from one carrier. They're going to be able to get quotes back from the multiple carriers. And then we kind of hone in on what options look the best for value. So coverage and price. And that way they can make an informed decision between just a few carriers, but they've been shopped through multiple. I also have a counterpart here now. I have another producer in the office. So if for some reason I would to be inundated, we have another producer that then I copy in on the emails that can help assist throughout the quoting process. We have a producer that we work with very closely that's housed down in Florida as well, which he's always a wealth of knowledge. If I get tripped up on something or possibly can't answer something as a non-resident agent, he definitely can and gets back to me same day. And then we have a direct Naples phone number, which is on all my marketing that's dispersed. Yep. So that 239 number comes directly to my desk and my cell phone. So if I can't get to the phone, if they leave a voicemail, I return their call same day. So there's various different ways they can get a hold of somebody here and they get an answer.
Good. And just in passing, because with real estate, what we know is that every single step of real estate generally happens at the worst possible moment at 10 o'clock in the evening on a holiday or on the weekend or whatever, or, whatever. There are, there are ways that a realtor can protect his or her customers by adding an insurance proviso. And we have, an addendum for that. We also can do additional terms. So we just want to encourage both realtors and customers to make sure that you have all the information ahead of time. Access is electronic to you, Destiny, but you're very responsive. So that'll be really a plus for them. But in the event that they can't, if it's midnight or whatever ungodly hour, they could put some type of provision in until they get that information, which gives their buyer a door out, so to speak, if they were in a very pricey area. But insurance is important and wonderful, and I know people don't like to talk about it, but until they go to use it, and then it's really difficult. Cindy, what do you? I mean, as a she's a native Southwest Floridian, on top of being our technological guru. But it from a customer's perspective, is there anything else that you think a customer might really profit from?
I've always been that had it drilled in, like get your homeowners insurance, get your flood insurance, and then if you're a renter, get your renter's insurance.
Right.
Make sure you've got coverage that way. I'm having a lot of conversations with clients right now about who live in condominiums and the differences between what the condo covers, what the association covers
Mhm.
versus the individual. And I think as we're coming into the next year, there's going to be challenges, and I think it's really important to align yourself with someone that is a trusted expert. So that's the big thing that's coming out of this is get someone who's an expert that you can shoot the email at 11 o'clock at night, because P.S. I shoot emails at all hours of the night, and really do your due diligence, because tragically you don't know what the crisis is going to be until it happens, and whether it's embezzlement or a building falling down or a hurricane coming through, right? It comes in many forms.
Absolutely. As a final statement, I will tell you that I have a lot of new folks that have, joined us as neighbors. And I explained to them, I have a hurricane box. Of course, I'm kind of a pain, but I like to be prepared, and I drive everybody crazy. But I am, Destiny will be very proud of me. I have a copy of all my, important papers and so forth, so I can just sort of grab them. And I know that's kind of overkill. I really do. I mean, I do, but it just really is comforting to know that you're kind of ready. Uh, it might sound silly, but otherwise, who knows? Right now, with smartphones, they've made all of us stupid. We don't know
Yeah.
the telephone number of anyone.
Right.
So, I mean, let alone policy numbers and,
Well, the
all that.
good thing is too, a lot of insurance providers are coming out with things like digital lockers.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of a great tool. Some of them have apps where you can log in and take pictures of your important documents, and they're safe, they're encrypted. But they go into a digital locker. That way, in the event that there were to ever be an emergency, and say you had a house fire and your safe you didn't have things in a fireproof safe, or stuff was damaged, you actually have them in this locker that the insurance company could provide for you, and it could be all of your important documents and copies, and it allows you to take pictures around your home. That way you have pictures of, because if your house were to be a total loss in a fire, you're not going to remember every TV, picture frame, article of clothing. So it allows you to kind of store some quick snapshots around your home to kind of guide you in the event you had a total loss claim, to be compensated for everything that you lost. So
I think that's really important. I need to switch from a box to an
like a digital locker. Yeah.
Absolutely. I need to become paperless. My company is trying to be paperless, and we're all doing the best we can. But I just thought of that, and that's really different. I don't think I ever did that when we lived up north.
Yeah, there a lot more, I think, are just, again, trying to move to that digital usage where, again, if something were to happen, not only do you have like your personal files that may still be accessible, they may not have been damaged, but you have it all saved digitally to kind of guide you in the process of easing the burden if there were to be a claim, of thinking of everything you have to replace.
I would also add, get your emergency family member on that account.
Yep.
In case you become incapacitated in the said house fire, and that's I've been through those crises, and just having that extra access it makes a world of difference.
Well, not to end on a down note, but insurance really is something that's important, and I really think we will work with Destiny in our company, and I'm sure Destiny would certainly supply information to anyone, any realtor that's sort of interested in that. But it is really the kind of thing that's extremely important once you need it.
Right.
So make sure that you understand it as a realtor, and you have somebody like Destiny you can call. And we kind of probed Cindy's mind because she's kind of a non-realtor. So
I'm the guinea pig. I'm the token guinea pig down here. It's all good.
That's all right.
And we, because I think it's true. I think realtors sometimes forget the customers are not realtors. They don't really, they don't live this, And as you say, a tragedy right now, I think, has made everyone aware of, gosh, this is something I better, get some information on.
Mhm.
And I think it's important they know how to go about doing that. So we get Destiny's contact out in the company, and I don't know how we can do that otherwise, but we can always just get you the contact information to anyone who needs it.
Absolutely.
So this video cast is going to be going out in Wednesday's newsletter. So cheers to everyone that's reading the newsletter and watches us. So thank you so much. We'll make sure, Destiny, to include your contact information there, and we'll keep touching base, and there will be more updates as we go along. So
that's perfect.
All right, ladies. Thank you so much. It's been fantastic seeing you, but we shall call it a night.
Monday.
Happy Monday.
Monday, right?
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Ask Pat. You can learn more at Downing-Frye.com and make sure to follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn.